I'm Malin Atkins, and today I wanted to write a message as if it was to my younger self. Recently I've realised that I've had a lot of trouble articulating myself, and I felt like if I could speak to my younger self, I know what I've done to change, I know what I've done that's better, I know what I've improved, I know where I went wrong in the past. So I feel like if I talk about it as if I'm talking to my younger self, then I can really get across my ideas in a better way. So I think one of the most important things for me was to feel confident in myself and to trust my ability a lot more. I feel like a lot of times I've kind of strayed away from what I wanted, what gave me fear, and I also kind of just stuck to basic. I never really looked for anything different, and once I did kind of get exposure to new kind of things and that I could actually change myself, I think this started through training from soccer and working out a lot more. I realized that I could actually change. These things are something that make me feel better, that give me a sense of satisfaction and more fulfillment in my life. And sometimes it's a harder thing to do. I'm just thinking back, I know those things would make me feel better. Even now, I know what things would make me feel better, but sometimes it's just a harder thing to do. And it's like, why would we sacrifice or sabotage ourselves, when we could be living something better? And I think, we've got to take responsibility for that. We've got to take responsibility for our actions and do something to try and change it. Then we've also got to realize, there's all these factors that are kind of contributing to why we do it. Recently I've been learning a lot more about dopamine and how that actually drives your behavior in that, and how there's a big difference between desiring something and having the motivation to pursue it and actually liking it in the moment. And I feel like I was always looking off into the distance, oh, over there is where happiness is, over there is where I'll be better. Way out there is when I will feel good enough to have a partner. Over there is where I will find friends. Over there is where I'll be happy, whatever. Over there is where I'll be successful. And it just kept reinforcing this idea that there was just this massive gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. And that could feel so daunting, even if you're taking little steps towards that. It can still really demoralized me a lot, I reckon. And that was kind of came from, I think, a compensation, I felt like I was so much more behind other people. And that was because partly, I wasn't very tall. It took a lot longer to grow. I didn't reach my full height till I was 18. I was pretty small, even smaller than most girls are when they were fully grown when I was 16 or 17, and then I just had a big growth spurt. And I think also because my brother, he grew at the same kind of rate as me, so we were always the same height, even though I was 2 years older. And I was never quite as athletically gifted as other people, or as my peers, definitely, and part of that was because, I was slower growing. I took a longer time to kind of grow into my body and that. And I think those things, we don't really realize, but these little things that happen in our childhood or even older as we grow up, they kind of have an influence on us. And that really interests me, all these things, these factors, and that that kind of have an impact on us, and we don't really realize that they do. Another thing I'd say is always, to my younger self, would be to like follow like what you're curious about, like explore what you're curious about, and don't get so worried about what all these other people are doing and what they're thinking and what you think you should be doing, but kind of focus more on what you want and what you think you should do to get there, you know. I think with the compensation goal, like where I felt like I had to be so great, I had to be amazing, I had to be at the top. You know, I feel like that was kind of unrealistic, and maybe it wasn't what I wanted, but it's what I thought I wanted. It's what I thought would get me accepted. It's what I thought would make me happier. And it's not in pursuing those things, it's not in having these big goals, but it's kind of like, it is great to make progress, you know, it is great to work towards goals, and we need that, but we've also got to have a balance, you know, and everybody has, you know, for me, I probably need to not focus on these long-term goals and enjoy the moment a bit more and learn to accept and understand myself a little bit more, rather than thinking, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to be perfect in this way, I've got to be the best to be okay, to be happy. And that's not really a good way to think, and it's not really a good way to live, you know, because I think it's a quote by Jim Carrey, it's like, I hope everyone gets all the success that they want, because once they realize they have it, they'll realize that it doesn't give them anything more in life, you know. The wanting and the pursuing that the dopamine gives you, you know, the dopamine is like for planning in something in the long term. It's not something that's like right here that I could do right now. It's like, it requires a bit of planning. And those things are exciting, and they drive us to action, you know, they drive us to act and do something. But we can't always live in that way, because if we're not enjoying moments and just enjoying living as we are in the moment, in the now, you know, we'd always be in this pursuit. And you know, we need a balance of both to live a good life, because I know I still want to grow, and I still have these intentions to become, for example, more articulate, to trust myself more, and to learn, and I just have this curiosity to learn about the body and the mind, and like philosophy, you know, a philosophy of life, like how should we live, how do we find out what we should live, how do we find like our purpose, how do we pursue that, how do we know when it actually comes. And you know, it's not in just searching for it and wanting it now, you know, it's like a process, it's like a long-term kind of project. And I think those are the things that are most fulfilling, when you have like a long-term project of something that you want. So yeah, I'd also say to take care of my body a lot more, because I feel like I was all over the place, you know, like because of the compensation goal and the big gap that I felt, I feel like I had to do so much more, and I had to just grind and grind and grind to get the work done. And it is true, you know, the more work you do on kind of basic tasks, you know, the longer you spend washing dishes, the more dishes get washed. But if you do that something on like a physical task, they're kind of, you know, like running, there's like a certain threshold that you could actually, you know, that you have, that if you go past, you know, you're doing more damage than any help. And so I think it was important for me to learn that I've got to listen to my body and work with the thresholds that I have, but not always work within them, kind of push it, but do it safely, do it smartly, because there's no point in burning yourself out and then feeling terrible and then doing nothing and then just wasting away time and then feeling worse for yourself, and then doing another burst of really hard work, because it's not sustainable and it's not very healthy. You know, you're kind of like in this up and down where you're like, yeah, you're kind of at mercy with the world rather than, you know, neutral. You're kind of going through your day. You know, some days you don't really feel like doing anything, so you kind of just realize, you know, all right, I'm not feeling great, but I've still got to maintain, you know, this kind of standard for myself. And then on the days where you're feeling really great, you've got to go realize, all right, I'm feeling great, that's good. I can do a bit more work, but I've got to kind of tone it down and rein myself in. And I feel like a lot of people, or even me at times, I got caught up so much in feeling great. You know, when you feel great, you feel like you can do anything, you feel like you can do it all, and you get so caught up in that, and then all of a sudden you get this massive crash, and then you feel terrible, and then you feel down, and then you feel like you can't do anything, so you don't really do anything. And you know, that's a hard kind of cycle to get out of. And I think for me it was just realizing, taking a step back, that if I wanted to make an actual change, then it was actually going to have to become a sustainable habit, and I have to think sustainable. Like, would I want to be on this diet for months? Could I be on it for years? Could I see myself in it, doing it for a long time? And that's something that's had an impact on my life, because I've realized that I don't have to be doing all of this work all the time. And yes, you should be doing work, you should be doing consistent work and that, but then there's also time just to rest, let the ideas kind of settle, and just, you know, clean up, go for a walk, just clear your mind or your head. And I think another problem that I had was with internet consumption, like my watching a lot of YouTube videos to try and get these ideas, to try and get the answers. I was always desperate for like these answers to these questions, and sometimes there's not really any answers at all, and that's kind of really disconcerting for me, because I'm really curious. Like, I want to know why, I want to know how. And you know, like with things with purpose, it's kind of something that you have to figure out yourself and that you have to develop along the way. But I also think that, as well as the internet consumption, I was playing a lot of video games to try and get that satisfaction, you know, to try and feel like it was like a false sense of achievement, you know, and it's really addicting because they've created it to be addicting. And oftentimes when I found that when I was bored and I didn't have a lot of time, I was more likely to just lean towards it, like, oh, you know, I don't really want to go out and do that thing. I don't really want to go out and do my uni class today. I don't really want to, you know, vacuum my room today, even though I kind of should. I can do that later. I may as well just play some video games or something to kind of take up the time. And I realized that wasn't really a good way to live, you know. It leaves you feeling, after you do it, it leaves you feeling really empty and kind of sad, like, oh, I wanted to do something. I wanted to, you know, actually clean my room, and I would have felt better for doing that, even though I didn't really want to. So I realized that I didn't want to feel as bad in that playing video games so much and watching so much YouTube, just trying to get these ideas and just over consuming all these things, was doing more harm to my life. And I realized that you've got to schedule out your day. You know, you've got to fill in your time with things that you want to do and things that you want to get done, things that you enjoy, and kind of create this balance. And I found that filling in your time, like scheduling out things that you want to do for the day, it helps a lot, because then you feel a little bit more like of this urgency, like, oh, you know, I've got to do this, I'm going to read for this time, and then after that I'm going to work out, and then after I work out I'm going to go for a walk because I need to do this thing, and then after that I'm going to come back home, and then I need to vacuum, and then, you know, you kind of feel at the end of the day, you're like, oh, I had all these things I wanted to do, and I did most of them. Even if you did a few of them, you'd like, I actually felt better for doing those things. And slowly, day by day, when those things kind of tick along, some days you get a lot done, some days you don't get as much done, but each day you just try and keep on building on it, you keep trying to do it. You start to feel more satisfaction in your life, and you start to feel a bit more fulfilled, which is what I've found. I started to feel a lot more fulfilled. I started to feel a lot more content, And I think another important thing is, I'm just speaking these ideas as I go, to kind of be realistic, like what are your strengths and weaknesses? And for me, one of my weaknesses is definitely articulation, which is why I'm trying to create these videos, because not only have I wanted to create a YouTube channel and try and share my ideas, but I've had a lot of fear in doing that, and I think it's important to try and overcome that, and to also learn to become more articulate, because as me, who's someone's more introverted and tends to overthink, I find it hard to I find it harder to socialize with people and get across my ideas and present myself in an authentic manner, which I think is very important in creating connection to other people. Like, you might meet people that you like or that you enjoy their company, but if you're not able to express yourself as you are, you're not able to have that deep connection with them. And I felt that with a lot of people, like there's been a lot of people that I've met that have been nice, that have been, good people that have like these really interesting ideas, but I just haven't been able to create a clear connection with them because I haven't been able to articulate myself properly. And that also comes down to like confidence in that, and with confidence, you've just got to, it's kind of a hard, fickle thing, you've got to face kind of your fears and do things anyway, and work on it. And some people say just have confidence in yourself, but it's like, if you have confidence in yourself, but you're kind of, not living a great life, not really going anywhere, not really learning anything or anything like that, you're not going to have this deeper feeling of confidence in yourself. And I think through the process of trying to learn about yourself more and develop yourself more, you kind of gain confidence along the way. You're like, oh, I wasn't very good at this skill, but now I'm starting to get better at it. I wasn't very flexible, but now I'm becoming better at it. I didn't have a very good physique, but now I'm starting to build muscle and I'm feeling better about it. And then it's also enjoying that as you are. It's kind of like you've got to have both. And so, as I was kind of saying with the realistic thing, is that you've got to be realistic with where you're at, because I'll give you an example. Recently I've been working out. So I started going to a gym, which was kind of nice. It was good to have the experience of doing it, but I think I'm not going to continue it, at least for now, because even though I want to build muscle and I enjoyed going to the gym, I realized that I had other problems underlying, like bad mobility, and I was getting a lot of really bad back pain, and even one day I couldn't bend down to pick anything up. It hurt to squat, hurt to do anything. It just hurt just walking around. And I realized that I hadn't been taking care of that. I was too busy working on trying to build muscle that I didn't realize that my back was taking all this strain. I was missing all these little muscles, I wasn't working on my hip flexibility. I wasn't working on firing my glutes. I wasn't working on my hip strength. And so I've kind of like, all right, I'm going to tone back. I still want to build muscle. That's still something that I want. That's still something that I enjoy. So I'm going to incorporate that, but my main focus now is going to be towards mobility and the knees over toes exercises to try and build up my flexibility and strength in my joints, and to protect my lower back a lot more. Because if you're not realistic, then, and you're not facing like the truth, then eventually it's going to come back and bite you. Like, I could have kept going on as I was and just ignored my back pain, and it would have got worse and worse. And who knows what sort of injury I could have ended up getting, and how that would have left me, and how much more longer it would have taken me to kind of recover that. So anyway, I think I'm going to conclude now. What I just wanted to try and do was articulate my ideas to try and get it to flow out more better. And I tried to do that through trying to speak to like my younger self, to try and think of the things that I'd learned and kind of where I improved. And through that I'm going to, review it, listen to myself, kind of work on my articulation, work on speaking across my ideas, keep learning, and make my ideas seem more cohesive and better. I'm not I'm not entirely happy with the videos that I'm sending out, because I know that I have these great ideas. I know that I have a smart mind that can, piece together these ideas and express them in unique ways that could connect to the audience. But I've just got to tone it back, be realistic, and kind of just work on it day by day and see how it goes and improve. Anyway, on to the next one.